Canada YouTube page after the event concludes. Would like to remind you all to please keep your microphones on mute unless the presenters ask for some interaction. And because of that, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to shoot it in the chat. And I will be monitoring that chat, and we'll ask the question when I feel the time is right. And then also please keep your cameras on. I think it really helps with that intimacy and the just the experience in general. So basically at the end of the presentation, we'll have some time for a Q&A if you'd like to ask the question in person, but otherwise feel free to put them in chat. Without further ado, I will go ahead and introduce our presenters and the presentation. So we have Giovanna and Kayla from Ryerson University. I'll let them talk a little bit more about themselves. But this presentation is removing participation barriers in intramurals, and I'm extremely excited to be in this session because I work in intramurals. And so without further ado, I'll let you all go ahead and get started.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. We're from Ryerson University, located in downtown Toronto. Ryerson offers a number of different programs and activities for over 45,000 full-time students, majority of them being commuters. We're traveling up to 2 hours away by either bus, train, or car. Less than 1% of students are on campus housing. One of the activities offered is Ryerson Intramurals. We will be talking about removing participation barriers in intramurals. My name is Giovanna. I'm the senior program lead, and I'm in my 4th year of business technology management.
And I'm Kayla, the administrative lead for Intramurals, and I'm in my 3rd year of psychology. First, I want you to think about what a barrier looks like to you. Is it physical like the pictures on the left, or do they look somewhat like the ones on the right, taking the form of social and economic aspects? Well, a barrier comes in many different forms, but the ones we'll be focusing on today are beyond physicality. A barrier in this sense relates to circumstances that keep people apart or can prevent communication or progress in certain areas. For us, we want to look at the barriers in our intramural program so we could address how to remove them, creating a more accessible program for Ryerson students and community members. However, we also know there are certain challenges out of our control since we go to a commuter school, have to have games later at night, there are work commitments, and school itself. And as students ourselves, we understand that there are multiple barriers that can come in the way of participating in activities, especially physical ones. I learned that Ryerson had this program through finding this job myself and looking for the information myself. And as a student here at Ryerson, I was unaware of this program, and I wondered if I was the only one that lacked this information. Because personally, I kind of just thought that intramurals stopped after high school. And this was the first step in tackling barriers, because if I didn't know about them, the chances that other students didn't know about them either was relatively high. So within the last year, we have been reflecting on our program as a whole to see where else barriers are present, including the communication one I just gave an example of. So today, Yvonne and I will be going through the barriers we have chosen to address in relation to the registration process in terms of time and money, the reorganization of leagues, divisions, and programs, and communication. First, though, I'm going to quickly talk about the process of how we got here before we talk about how we address these 3 barriers. We began by conducting our own research through surveying a variety of students who are not a part of the intramural program and asked them why they chose not to be, as well as, while reflecting on our program from the inside of our walls, we decided that site viewings would be a good way to see what other schools were doing as well. So in early spring, we viewed 3 schools, 2 in Toronto and 1 just outside of Toronto, as well as we also looked online at other people's schools throughout North America to see what they were doing. We were trying to find the best fit for our school being in the heart of downtown Toronto, with the population being part of the commuter community. This means we were trying to find ways to attract commuters, as well as looking for division names that would clearly tell people where they fit. One other process we used was looking at the 2018 to 2019 stats for our program. These outlined who was in intramurals, their gender, and what year they were in. Using these stats, we found that men identifying individuals were participating the most, usually in 3rd and 4th year. Overall, there was about a 1-to-5 ratio of women to men in most years, but once we looked at 4th year students, it was about 1-to-7 ratio. These ratios show how women are not really participating as much as men are, and with this, we decided to create programming addressing these concerns. So now Ivana will talk about the registration process.
With our previous registration process, there were too many steps for a participant to register. It would take them too much time, and that could potentially turn some people away. Additionally, people would have to come in to our school and pay to participate in the intramural program, which in itself was time consuming and not that convenient. And thinking of myself as a student walking across campus downtown Toronto after commuting an hour and a half and then having to pay more money on top of paying tuition, it's probably not that great of a process. So we want to change that. That being said, we understood that we had to hold teams accountable to minimize the amount of defaults during the season. And that's when we created our new process. We removed the fee to participate, and people would only have to register through IM leagues to play the sport of their choice. In order to ensure that teams hold accountability for defaulting games, we implemented the fair play system, which does this as well as promotes positive behavior in our spaces. The fair play system emphasizes the importance of good sportsmanship, treating others fairly, and respecting the rules of the intramural program. By implementing the fair play system, it shows participants that we care about the safety of everyone in our program. This chart here shows the behavior that will receive strikes for their actions. When a team accumulates 3 strikes, they will be immediately removed from play and suspended for the remainder of the program. For defaulting games, participants are given 1 strike per default. By swapping out the fees for this system, it also removes the administrative burden for staff, as at the end of the season, teams who didn't default any games would have to receive a refund, and this took up a lot of time. Instead, staff can now focus on other projects instead of tedious refunds.
So moving on to league and division reorganization, intramurals are all about having fun with peers while getting some exercise. All levels are welcome to participate, whether students have been playing a sport for years or only once back in high school. However, with these different levels of experience, it can definitely be intimidating to get out there, especially with confusing divisions and leagues. Ryerson Intramurals has been working on reconstructing the leagues in a way to make more people feel welcome, as well as creating programming like the Women in Sport program, specifically for all women identifying individuals to help break down the intimidation barrier. So this spring and summer, my colleagues and I worked on reorganizing the way divisions and leagues work. The way each league was structured last year and years before that was in divisions such as A, B, and C. The real confusion came from how these work and how someone knows where they fit into. Being a new staff member last September, I was also confused by this as I helped with weekly schedules and IM leagues, but was unclear about what these meant. If I, a staff member, was confused, I can only imagine the people wanting to sign up for intramurals, but were unsure on where they should be put. This is why we came up with 2 new divisions, social and competitive. The social division is for participants with a primary interest in having fun, socializing, and making new friends. This is open to all levels of ability, including newcomers to their sport of choice. Meanwhile, the competitive division is for participants who are interested in playing competitively. Still, all levels of ability are welcome, although it is recommended that players have some experience, as the other participants most likely will as well. These definitions, which can be found on our website and on screen, clearly state what the divisions entail, which should cause less intimidation for all people of all experience levels, as they know where they fit into. When I was first interviewed for this job last year, one of the questions my boss asked me was what sports I play and which am I good at. I kind of laughed under my breath a little because I'm not really good at any sports. I do love to play them, but I have a lack of hand-eye coordination, so I'm not very good at them. So I was trying to figure out an answer, but I kind of was just honest and said that. And that's when my now boss reassured me that intramural sports aren't about being good at a specific sport. They're more about having fun and enjoying doing them. And I think that's what intramurals are all about. And that's what we're trying to promote through our program. I know that if I saw the A, B, and C divisions when signing up, I would have had no idea where I fit under. But if I were signing up now and saw the options for social and competitive, I would definitely know that I prefer the social one, as I just wanted to have fun.
Considering the statistics Kayla had referred to earlier, we knew that our program had a lot of male participation. So how do we attract different demographics to the program? We removed men's leagues as well as renamed our co-ed league to mixed. Thinking back to when I participated in high school sports, co-ed reminded me of just males and females participating, as traditionally co-ed referred to this. But we want to communicate that regardless of your gender, whether man, woman, two-spirit, transgender, gender non-conforming, that there was a league where a participant could find fit for them. We now have 3 leagues: mixed, as I previously mentioned, open leagues where there are no gender-based rules to follow and aim to foster greater diversity and active well-being, as well as women's, who it's open to anyone that identify as a woman.
And adding on to the Women's League that we introduced, 2 years ago, we started up a Women in Sport program for everybody who identifies as a woman. Last year, this was run by me and 2 other girls, as we planned different sports for each week in a drop-in intramural style, which means that people would just come to the gym every week. There was no sign-up required, and they could just come and play sports. So for example, we organized basketball, badminton, volleyball, and one night we even got a high-intensity interval training instructor to come in to do a class with us. That was a lot of fun. And looking at our stats in the past, there has been like 80% male and 20% female participation. And we hope to change that through this new program. Our aim was to create a safe and fun environment for women of all skill levels without the commitment of one sport for a whole semester. And after looking at our stats and talking with our own women identifying friends, we wanted to see why this was happening and try to remove the barrier of fear with this program to increase women participation in our spaces. My boss gave me this opportunity based on my own experiences in the gyms, as I too have felt uncomfortable in certain physically active spaces. And I know firsthand the feeling of this type of intimidation. Each week we had different amounts of women participating, and even on some days where there were only a few of us, we just wanted to make sure that we gave women the option to come out and play and make sure that they had a safe space to do that.
With our communication strategy, we focused on 3 components: our mission statement and values, the participant handbook, as well as communicating all of the changes that we've made through the channels that we had available to us. We knew from feedback that when participants came in and saw how everyone interacted with each other during game nights, that they would feel safe and included in intramurals. But we started to question whether those who are making their decision on whether or not to participate knew about what our program stood for and what we value. We began to discuss beyond what intramurals is at face value. And at face value, it's an opportunity for people to participate and play in sports. But it's more than that. We started the process off by asking what our program stood for, why we do what we do, and who we do it for. Through our discussions, our goal is for participants, staff, students, and faculty to know what our values are: diversity and inclusiveness, wellness through movement, education and leadership through various job opportunities offered to students, the spirit of innovation as we continue to strive and look for better ways to serve participants, and lastly, having fun while playing in the program. We went ahead and explicitly laid our mission statement and values on the front page of the Ryerson Intramural website. We found that communicating this information will help to reassure those who may be hesitant about joining, but it also reminds current participants of the program that they are in. As for the handbooks and manuals, we created and further developed 2 of which would be used for staff to guide and answer any questions they may have. And the 3rd manual we created can be accessed directly from our website, the Participant Handbook. When creating the Participant Handbook, we were keeping in mind that this is essentially what a participant agrees to. We explicitly listed out the standards of behavior, stating that staff, officials, participants, and spectators are to be treated with respect. 0 tolerance for inappropriate behavior. This includes team names and clothing to not show any offensive symbols or language. We want to communicate that we take inappropriate behavior seriously and all participants are to be held accountable for their actions. Further, we listed out our procedures for defaults and disqualifications and the overall responsibilities as a participant and as a team captain, providing participants with the fair play system, as I previously mentioned before. And now that we had everything that we want to communicate, from our mission statement to programming to manuals, how do we effectively lay out all this out with the channels that we had available to us? On this slide, you'll see here our website, the Ryerson Intramural website that can be accessed through Ryerson University. We strategically planned out how to communicate all this information onto here. And while keeping in mind who will be viewing this, we structure the information in the perspective of an individual who would be making their decision on participating in the program. The purpose of communicating these three components is ultimately to be transparent, aid in decision-making, and hold participants accountable for their actions. And although there were a lot of uncertainties due to COVID this year, we had the advantage of having time on our hands. We were able to review all of our processes and understand how to optimize what we had in place and what we can change or add to better the intramural program and better serve the participants. That being said, unfortunately, we went from a team of 20 to a team of 3, 2 student staff and 1 full-time staff. The student staff roles were structured in a way for us to take leadership and ownership of the work we have created and continue to create. We ensure that our program is for students by students, and we continue trying to navigate and coordinate our project remotely to ensure that we execute everything successfully. For me, I've been working at Ryerson Recreation for a little over 3 years now, and only since this past May, I've switched positions and dedicated my time to Intramurals. Prior to my role and involvement in this project, I really didn't know too much about Ryerson Intramurals, other than being a participant, but I had to learn really quickly about the program in order to continue on with these projects.
Like Yvonne, I didn't know much about this program prior to my job in Intramurals. However, I have been working in it now for the past year and a half-ish, and I've learned a lot. I'm generally a very organized person and love getting clear instructions for what I have to do, which is why I believe I've been thriving in my current role. Before, I worked as an administrative assistant last year, and all my tasks were very well communicated before COVID. They still are now, being an administrative lead, but a challenge for me right now is definitely working around these instructions being given solely online. Although the commute is a lot nicer because I just have to get up and just kind of go to my living room, I really do miss seeing my colleagues face to face and collaborating with them in person opposed to over text and Zoom.
And when starting this project, we were anticipating and looking forward to seeing all the participants in person and seeing our changes actually come to life this fall semester. That was the biggest challenge that our team had faced, not seeing all our work done unfold. But we continue to adapt and offer remote programming to get participants moving and involved in activities they enjoy. We're offering a diverse set of programming, including our rolling challenge where participants can track distances, either biking or using mobility aids, walking and running challenges, esports, and lastly, trivia nights. We really worked hard trying to adapt to the current circumstances while also continuing the refresh of our program. We can say that it really feels rewarding getting positive feedback from participants in our virtual programs and showing what we are doing is having an impact on their weekly routines. Thank you for listening. If anyone has any questions, the floor is open now.
Hey, I had a question. You said that you removed your men's league. Did you experience backlash for doing that? And in your mixed league, were there rules that prevented all men's teams? Can you talk about that a little more?
So because again, we haven't actually seen this come to life, but we knew again from our statistics that 80% males were coming to our spaces. We knew that they would stay regardless of whether they had a men's league. Like they're still going to come in, they're still going to want to play the sport. In terms of our mixed league and having gender restrictions on that, we wouldn't allow a full men's team. Like we would have to have like either a female identifying participant. Like we would still be tracking those, but yeah, we don't. I mean, because we haven't seen it, we haven't actually experienced it, but I really don't see too many issues happening. Maybe I'm underestimating that, but yeah.
In Canada, do you have like the fraternity sorority system at Ryerson? Is it the same?
I don't, we might. Kayla, I don't know if you know, I don't know exactly if we do. I think we have like a few, but it's not that,
Okay.
it's not that popular really. Like people really don't know about it, neither do I. So I don't think it's really a thing.
Toronto one in general. So like all the universities, I believe in Toronto, they belong to like, it's not just like for once, like Ryerson doesn't have their own, but there are like a fraternity and I guess sorority that incorporates like people from York University, U of T. but I also like it's not that popular, I don't think, in Toronto, to the point where I'm not exactly sure how that works. But I do know that there is one, but it incorporates a bunch of schools, not just Ryerson.
Okay.
Yeah, to comment on that too for you, Kate, like in Canada, yeah, the systems exist. It's just not at all at the same magnitude as the United States. It's just much smaller and compact.
Yeah, for a little background, removing a men's league at a university with a lot of fraternities would be very unpopular here.
Can only imagine.
I can comment on that as well. We actually went to straight open leagues. And so we actually required that there would be at least one non-male identifying person on the team. So they would put them on the team, but then never tell them when their games were.
Oh,
So they found a little bit of loophole and they took a hold of it, and it ended up being an all males league, even though there was females listed on the rosters.
I'm pretty sure that when from like last year anyways, when we would have like co-ed, I know that if they didn't come to game day, like with their full team, like with the gender like what's it called, rules, I think that they would get defaulted, I believe. I don't know, I know Randy can talk more about that, but
yeah, I can step in a little bit about it. More so in terms of these terminologies. I think we're just trying to get away from the hardcore men's leagues and trying to keep it more welcoming and inclusive. So we're not necessarily taking away a men's league, but we're changing the terminology to make it more inclusive and welcoming. I think that's more so where we're going with it. In terms of co-ed, everyone sort of looks as co-ed as men's, women's, that kind of thing. And we've moved to a mixed where there's a little bit of gender rules for the specific activity, whereas our open leagues are open for whoever to participate. So I think that's more so where we're going. Obviously, we're not taking out leagues, but we're moving in this direction to make it hopefully more inclusive and take away that barrier or intimidation for people that maybe don't normally want to participate, to open up the doors for them to participate and feel welcome as well.
Cool. So looking at the chat, there was a question. Randy already provided an answer, but I thought I'd provide you to the opportunity. Can you elaborate a little bit on the processes that you use to collect data from non-participants? That was actually a question I also had, just to kind of hear what they said that like helped inform how you remove some of those barriers.
did you want to answer first, Kayla? All right.
I can go first.
Okay. So we had a survey that was in the form of like Google Docs. It was like not Google Docs, Google Forms. So it was like easy to distribute, but we got non-participants to answer that, specifically commuters, to really understand like if they were to participate in the intramural program, what times would work best for them. That was really important for us to gather that information to try to accommodate the commuters. So yeah, it was through the form of Google Forms, but then also it was really interviewing people. Like I spoke to a lot of my friends as well, and beyond that, like people in my class, trying to understand like, one, do you participate and why don't you participate? But the biggest thing is that I found, people just don't know. And once I told my friends, once I started becoming really involved in the program, like we have this, like you should really come out, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Only then they were like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna come. I never knew this was like a thing. And I think that because Ryerson is such a spread out campus, people don't even enter spaces in their 4 years of being there. Like they won't even know the extent of the campus. Like a lot of people don't even know we have a pool at all. So yeah, I just think that the biggest thing is people don't know. And through our communication, we're really trying to get that information out there so people can actually make a decision after having this available to them. But then even further than that, going into our winter semester and kind of when hopefully we come back in the fall next year, having this whole like marketing strategy to really get different demographics in here and really tell people like, this is what we have and this is what we're offering, and come out if you're interested. So.
Cool. Thank you. We just got another question in the chat. This is, I guess, is really general. So if anybody wants to jump in and answer this, feel free. But the question is, do any other schools run intramurals during daytime hours? And so some context from Jen is that their program runs from around 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they find that people have trouble building teams through that. So does anybody else run daytime programming? Kind of want to talk about that?
On weekends we have, I don't know if that really counts towards it, but we would have like tournaments in the like weekends, but we usually start ours at like 5 p.m., sometimes 6 p.m. Then they usually go until like 11 p.m.
We also don't have weekend hours, so
Okay.
we are strictly 9 to 4 daytime. We need to be out of the gym by 4, so like we can't even schedule a game at 3 because we have to clean up. So just wondering if anybody else has that challenge of only having intramural space in the daytime.
I remember from last year's student lead on Niagara College talked about having that challenge as well. I forget what they said, how they were kind of getting around it with their facility space. And again, classes, it was always difficult for them to get around that type of thing. I think they moved more towards an open gym model, like a drop-in sport. Not entirely sure though.
Thanks, Ross. I'll follow up with Niagara.
I actually had a question as well. First of all, awesome presentation. I really like how you guys are going for more of a diversity perspective towards intramurals. I was kind of wondering as well, have you looked at potentially including unified sport and partnering with Special Olympics to try and include those type of individuals in your intramural program as well?
Oh, we actually did do that. I'm not sure. Randy could probably talk about how like many times we have. I just like personally, I was part of that this spring, maybe. I think it was spring. I think it was right before lockdown happened, but I could be wrong. I have memory. But yeah, we had a basketball tournament and we did stuff like that. But yeah, Randy.
Yeah, I can step in a little bit. So we've run in collaboration with Special Olympics Ontario for the last 3 years now. And basically we've run 1 or 2 tournaments, one each semester in terms of basketball. Well received. And for the most part, I think, am I still there? Everyone sort of froze.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. So we basically run on a weekend these tournaments, and yeah, well received. Lots of participation, and more so, I think it was just nice for our Ryerson students to sort of get a feel of participating with others with special needs. But I would say a bunch of the Special Olympics participants and athletes way better than some of our students. So, but we sent a team to the championships as well. And but yeah, would like to continue with that event and activity. And but yeah, yes, so we have done that.
Awesome. Have you looked at like making it like a weekly thing instead of just a tournament, like fully integrated into your intramural system?
We have considered that. We haven't gone that step yet, but definitely something that we're considering.
Okay, awesome. Just interested. Thanks.
Yeah, and to maybe just add on to Jen's comment about the daytime, we've never really had obviously we've had weekend events and stuff that we've done in the day on the weekends, but always evening activities for us. And I think the biggest challenge that we face is having late games with a commuter school. And so we get a lot of teams that don't want to play the late games and either don't show up for the late games, and then it's frustrating for the other team that showed up for the late games. So I would say we have the challenges as a later in the day kind of activity as compared to during the day. But I think we would definitely struggle for sure during the day with class schedules and everyone having a full team or whatnot, just with the randomness of our Ryerson schedules with students.
Sweet. I had a question. So in the chat, you all got a lot of commendations about the Women in Sport program. And so I was hoping that you could expand a little bit on how you kind of designed that and how you kind of marketed it to your students, because this is definitely something I think that we could use here.
I can't really talk about the creation of it since it was created a year before I joined, but I can talk about how like partially on the marketing end or like the kind of like I would talk a lot to my like own like women identifying friends a lot of the time actually, and they had no idea it existed, but it brought some of them in. So word of mouth was definitely a huge one. There was also we handed out flyers in like our front like foyer of like our student learning center, but we were also like advertising like other programs that we had too, and we during the high intensity interval training when we got the instructor to come in, we just kind of went around our gym and went up to random people and was like, hey, we have this program. There's going to be an instructor. If you're at the gym, you can always come and check it out. So it's kind of a lot of it was like word of mouth, flyers, kind of just like talking to people in the change rooms that we have, like just kind of like trying to branch out as much as possible. I know Randy can talk more about the like process of starting it up.
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, this was like we had it in our mind to do a little bit of this, but it came from a student that was interested in participating, but had those sort of apprehensions and intimidation to coming into a gym. So this was part of her sort of course project, was to do a little bit of marketing to it, but also promoting it and seeing it through. So that's where it sort of took shape. But we knew in our broader umbrella of campus that this isn't just one person that's having this situation. There's a lot of women out there that really would like to participate, enjoy sports, enjoy activities, and would like to come out, but just have the intimidation factor that really weighs on them. So we started this with the mindset that we really wanted it to be a community type feel, and really brought on by the participants involved. So when Kayla was talking about the activities, basically on the first night, we sort of gauged what people wanted to participate in what activities, and we would say we would organize that kind of activity. And so things like the group fitness or pickleball, or some things that maybe we don't incorporate in our intramural program on a weekly basis, but activities that they could participate in. And so our ultimate goal was to get women out and participate, but also get a sense and a feel of a community for those people to sort of come out and feel welcome and included.
When adding on to the community part, at the very first, like whenever we'd get new participants each week, we would add them to a WhatsApp group chat. And then we would like just keep them updated with information, encourage them to bring out their friends, tell them what sports we were thinking of playing that certain week. and just kind of giving them updates through the WhatsApp so that they always had that line of communication. And yeah.
I just want to add something. My name's Amanda. I also work at Ryerson and I work on the facility side. Just to address Jen's comment about if there weren't enough women who showed up on that particular night, we never canceled. We never cut it short. All of our staff, our coordinators, our managers, our executive team, we are committed to equity programming, and we're all on the same page about that. And that is so important when you introduce programs like this. So yeah, if you're trying to do it, you have to do it properly, and you cannot cancel because you only have 3 people in the gym. You cannot cancel because you have 0 people in the gym. Like, this is the dedicated time, and everyone stays committed to that.
Yeah, sometimes we had to deal with that, which Amanda also knows because she would come in sometimes too. But yeah, we tried not to cancel it ever.
But it's the only way to get it going. If you're not committed to it, it dies off. So the real way to make this successful is you stay committed to it all the way through, and you will get people. People will start coming and they will start bringing their friends.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Are there any other questions? No? All right. Let's give a round of applause to Giovanna and Kayla. Woo, good work. With that, thank you all for coming. As I said earlier, this presentation will be available on the Canada NERSA YouTube page. Other than that, yeah, thanks everybody for coming. Have a good rest of your time here at the Student Lead-On.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy hour afterwards.
Yeah, there is a coffee hour right after this if anyone wants to hop over to that.
Like a
Thank you.
social networking type of thing.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, guys.